Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all again. Today's guest is going to be from SOS Children's Village. He is the Director of Funding and Public Relations. Please welcome Cemil Hafız. Without keeping it and stretching it too long, I will give the word to Cemil Bey.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you first. Yes, I'm Cemil Hafız. I'm the Fundraising and Public Relations Department head in SOS Children's Village. Today, I would like to talk about the communications in NGOs with you. I have a small presentation that I would like to share with you, but afterwards, I would like to discuss what you think about the communications in civil society organizations and how do you consider this sector. After my presentation, we can have questions and discuss the topic in more detail. And I didn't want to sit, sorry. I don't like to sit that much when I'm presenting. So, yes. Do we have the presentation on board? Yes. Here. Yeah. I mean, the communications is a very large, wide topic, as you know, and it differs from sector to sector. But I just wanted to first ask a question. What is the communication in NGOs, do you think? Anybody who wants to take part? What is the difference? Yes, please.
First, can you please clarify what NGO means? Is it non-governmental organization?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's non-profit, like charity stuff, right?
Yes, can be charity.
Okay, so probably communication with public stuff, so raise awareness or to welcome new members and volunteers.
Yes, of course, it includes that. What else? Who wants to take part? Okay, let me continue. As you described, first we have to see what is NGO and what is civil society and how it differs from the other sectors, maybe. I mean, NGOs, or in other words, civil society organizations, are non-governmental. And they are not in the private sector also. They are mostly volunteer-based. And they have their unique position and structure. They can have a structure of association, unions, unities, foundations, federations, and corporations. So they have a different form of life, different aims, different visions, different missions, and structures. So we have to distinguish the civil society organizations or NGOs from the private sector and from the public sector itself. And when we talk about the communication in the NGOs, what do you think? What could be the difference in the communication of the NGOs and in the communication of the private sector, let's say? What could be the difference between? Anybody? Yes, please.
Non-profit probably needs to construct their communication differently because for-profit organizations have obvious exchange with people they're communicating with. Like if you're a customer, then we have something to give you, you have something like money to give us. If you're a worker, you have labor to give us, we have money to give us. And
Okay.
for nonprofit organizations, it's more like approaching people with, well, what they have to give to a world for emotional or like moral
Yes.
exchange.
Okay, true. But does this make a change
Yeah, obviously.
within
Like,
the communication?
if you have another aim in communication, the whole communication, like how you construct it, changes, like your approach to it, and your language, and everything.
Your tone, your
Yeah.
designs, everything. Yes, it changes. It changes, but the structure of the communication itself doesn't change that much. I mean, the communication is communication. And the aim of the communication, the goal of the communication may change. The approach of the communication may change, but communication itself doesn't change because they're non-governmental or because they are not private sector. So NGOs also has different motivations, yes, and what they do, actually, they work for civil society. They work for social issues. They work for environmental issues. They work for employment issues. And most of the time, their motivation is not making the profit. It's what? It's giving, supporting the public, supporting the community, supporting the environment. Yeah. Only difference is this. So their motivation is not profit like private sector. Their motivation is to support communities. But the way of the communication may change, but the structure of the communication doesn't change. Yeah? They use nearly the same instruments and elements of the communication like private sector does or public sector does. Yeah? But their approach is different from the private sector. Yes, please.
I just had the thought that maybe looking back to history of communication before nowadays, the difference was more striking. Nowadays, the private companies kind of approach customers with the same language as nonprofit organizations because they all have like claim to have value and some way of life to give and to like to influence all of your life decisions.
But I mean,
they usually they kind of talk like societal advertisement, like, you know.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a
But sometimes, don't you think that private sector, I mean, the private companies are doing the same? They have values. They have things to do for the society.
well,
Rather than,
but their main goal is profit. So
okay,
the kind of values are the steps to achieve the profit. They have values and they sometimes even like aware and take some approach to deal with problems in society or in culture or in environment, but it's all other steps to achieve profit.
So the main goal is different.
Yeah, it's
from
like what I was trying to say is that if you will look at all their advertisements, they were advertising the product. Nowadays they advertise values, they advertise those like things that you can do, like if you participate with our product and our company,
Yes.
this is the way that you make environment better, or this is the way that you make community or society better. Like they are trying to kind of hijack the communal goals for profit.
That's true. That's true. But as you said, private sector and the NGOs or civil society organization, they have completely different motivations and goals. The way of doing the communication and emphasizing the importance of the issues for them are different also. Maybe companies, private sector, they are pushing more for the marketing efforts of the services and the goods they produce, and civil society organizations are pushing more about the importance of the issues for the community and for the world. And both of them, yes, they do communication, and I argue that both sectors and even the public sector itself, they are using the same instruments and elements of the communication. It doesn't change that much. I mean, when you look for the whole society, you see the private sector here, you see CSOs here in different elements, you see governmental public bodies. And between them, there are professions, vulnerable or interest groups, there are politics, economics, and the social issues. So, within this system, of course, private sector and the governmental bodies are completely separate from the civil society organizations. But the way of communication they do is nearly the same. I mean, a private company tries to create a brand and strengthen a brand, tries to have an identification of this brand within the community, and the CSO does the same. Private companies, they do promote their services and goods, let's say. How do they do that? With public relations and with the advertising, yeah? CSOs does the same. I mean, even the governmental bodies are doing the same now. Yeah? And when we come to the NGOs communication, this is a simplified division. They do brand communication. This is one of the musts. They do advocacy of some of the issues. They do communication for the advocacy work. They do communication for fundraising, and they do communication by public relations instruments. So why they do that? Actually, they try to have a brand identity. Yeah? They try to guarantee the awareness of the brand. They try to strengthen the brand. Yeah? Each NGO has to have a brand communication first to have consent of the public first. Then, if they are advocating for the rights of anything, it can be human rights, it can be animal rights, it can be environmental rights, yeah? They do communication for the advocacy. Yeah? For the child rights or human rights maybe. Changing legal text, administration or practices, or sometimes changing the culture of the community. They do communication for this. Yeah. And fundraising, I mean, especially most of the NGOs, they can struggle with the financial sources. So what they do, they fundraise. So communication of the fundraising is another field. It can be for the acquisition. It can be for the retention. It can be for the loyalty of the customers, or let's say the donors. Anybody who knows what is acquisition or retention?
No, please.
Okay. Acquisition is the communication efforts, or let's say promotions, to find new donors, new customers. What is retention?
Is holding for donors that you already have? Then?
Yes. Retention activities are the activities, communication activities for the warm contacts, the existing customers, or let's say donors. Yeah. And the loyalty, the name says everything. Loyalty activities are for the keeping, the donors, the volunteers. Yeah. So this is another field that NGOs make communication and the public relations efforts. Yeah. I mean, the good governance is very important for the civil society organizations. If you don't have partnerships, if you don't have a governance with the public bodies, then you cannot exist. That's why NGOs has to have a very good communication with the bodies, with the authorities, yeah? Partnerships with the other institutions, with the organizations. I mean, an individual NGO itself has a narrow impact. Yeah? If you like to widen your impact, then you have to have partnerships with the other civil society organizations, with the private sector, yeah, with the public organizations like governmental bodies. Yeah? And at the top, public consent. What is consent? What is public consent?
Consent is agreement to something.
Something.
So then public agreeing with the aims and like means of
Yes.
NGO.
Definitely. I mean, the public accepts that NGO, civil society, and its aims, its rules, its values are important. If you would like to get a consent of the public, then you need to do public relations activities. Yeah? And this is another form of communication that you do with the public. So, if we summarize 4 different ways of making the communication, it can be more, it can be less, but more or less NGOs does the communication within these big titles. Don't you think that the private sector does the same? I mean, they try to have an identity. They try to strengthen the brand. Maybe they don't advocate. Maybe they do. Sometimes they have this corporate social responsibility activities. Yeah. And they advocate for something. Sometimes they advocate for their rights. I mean, the private sector has text, legal text, and they have issues. Yeah. And they do that. They have sales and marketing activities. Yeah. Maybe the name is different. But more or less what they do is the same. They use the same elements of the communication. Yes. But they're promoting what they do. Yeah, this is promotion. And of course they have their public relations activities also. So more or less, private sector and the NGOs or civil society organizations, they use similar elements of the communication. Yeah. Yeah. Brand communication. Even the name and the logo itself introduces something and argues about the something. Yeah. So starting from the scratch, when you are creating a brand, when you are establishing an NGO, let's say, and you founding a name, a logo, or anything, or designing thing, you have to think about it. You have to think about the meaning. yeah, and the content of its mission, vision, roots, values, and principles. These are the elements of creating a brand, isn't it? So NGOs, they need to think about what is the mission. And when you create your mission and vision, you have to communicate this very carefully with the public. Yeah. You have to identify your roots, your values, and principles. These are the elements that differentiates you from the others. And how you communicate these with the public is very important. Operations, what they do. I mean, responsibilities that they take. Yeah. I work for an SOS Children's Village. We care children. Yeah. This is the simply determination of this association that I work. But is it enough to say we care children? No. Yeah. So how you care the children should be described in the principles. Our principles are unique, and we have key wording for this. Determination of the SOS Children's Village. Yeah? So when you use these principles to determine yourself, to tell the others about yourself, then you make the difference between you and the others. So in our communication, we are very careful on that. Yeah? Our motivations, our duties and fields are different from the other civil society organizations. So we try always to put the things which are different than the others. The way of doing our job, the way of making our job should be different. And while we're communicating, we're choosing the words, the visuals, the images different than the others. Why we do that? We want people, we want organizations, we want all the partners or potentials or prospects to see our association different than the others. Yeah? Touch points. I mean, all the signs, buildings, vehicles, tools, people. I mean, our workers also, they are our touch points for the brand. We have to be very careful while we are, looking after for our buildings, while we are hiring our people. What are the conditions of all our buildings, tools, vehicles? These are representing our brand. They are communicating with the public without our control. So this is a kind of communication, these touch points, looking after for these touch points. Yeah? Text, visuals, yeah? Even the colors, the fonts, they are part of communication. They are saying something to people about us. So choosing the right text, right image, is the way of communication. It is the representation of the brand. So this title, the brand communication, looks like this in SOS Children's Village. Look, here, who we are, our roots, yeah, our principles, values, and mission shapes our vision. Yeah, and from this reflection, we have here our briefing. with few sentences. What is SOS Children's Village? Or what is this NGO? You have to have a very strong briefing about your association. Our desire, what we want for the world, what we want for ourselves, what we want for people, our purpose, and our differentiation, target group, approach, and personality. So, feeding from this and finding this. I mean, I was mentioning about the logo here. The logo of SOS Children's Village, you have to make it very carefully. I mean, the logo itself also has a meaning. So the power of visuals to explain something is very strong. When you choose something to represent yourself, you have to have the background information about that. This logo here, I mean, the ground expresses the stability for the children. The plant at the middle, it represents the growth, healthy growth. And the framework, white framework, represents safeguarding for the children. Yeah? A simple visual, simple image can say plenty of things. Yeah? Any questions up to here? No? No. Okay. So we keep going for the brand. You have to have regulations for the brand. What is the definition of an NGO's brand? You have to have very clear definition. Verbal identity, very simple, short, strong enough. Yeah? Verbal identity is very important. Without this, you are blind. Yeah? The messaging framework, key messages, short, and key words that you have to choose to represent yourself. Why you are here? Why you exist? Should be answer. Very short. About us. Again, what we do. In 4 sentences, you have to have this description. Tone or voice. Which words you use. Yeah? In SOS Children's Village, we got training for this. Which words we should use and which words we shouldn't use. I mean, you know this Google optimization thing, and you choose the keywords for optimizing your site, and there are opposite sides of these words also in the Google optimizations. Yeah? This is very interesting. We have the same. Yeah, so your brand, when you're communicating about your brand, sometimes when you use a wrong word, then people, they put that wrong word onto your brand. And this is very critical. Very critical. Yeah? Messaging pillars and visual identity. Pictures or images, they talk. And the choosing pictures or images are very important in your communication. People, they don't read that much in today's world. Yeah? They recognize the pictures, images. So if you choose the wrong image, it can affect your reputation. It can maybe it will not going to affect your reputation in a bad way, but it will reflect your brand wrong, which you don't desire. So whenever you choose your images and your words, you have to think twice and be very careful. I mean, the key messages bring us to why we're here and about us. I mean, for the SOS Children's Village, this is real figure. The problem itself is described in these sentences. Tailored support that SOS does is this short, very brief and understandable. Yeah? Truly bonding describes the relationships between the children, the way we do our job. Yeah? And then we come to our approach, the way of doing the things in SOS perspective. And this is our differentiator, because there are plenty of organizations, very, very large number of organizations who are looking for the children. But you have to find out what differentiates you to identify yourself first, to identify you with your unique sense. Yeah? So when we talk about the brand communication, we think that it is easy, but it's not. I mean, the name of the organization that you choose, the logo, the wording, the images, yeah, the platform, the communication platform that you choose, they all affect your success or your failure. Imaging. The pictures that you choose. Maybe some of you have observed before, there are some organizations, civil society organizations who, uses negative images. Yeah? In the promotional activities, they say negative images has effect in the short term, but positive images, they have effect in the long term. So when you do fundraising, in your communications, if you choose very, very negative images, it is good for the emergency relief programs, but it is not good for the SOS children, for the associations or NGOs like SOS Children's Village, because we look after, we care for the children in the long run. And we don't need, or let's say, it's not good for us to get short-term support. That's why we didn't want to use that kind of images. It's not good for us. Yeah? A single child lives at least 13 or 15 years in SOS Children's Village. So this is a long, long, long time. Yeah? Okay. Any questions up to now?
Negative pictures makes people maybe pity you.
Sometime.
Like giving negative pictures out there, it makes people pity you for the children.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want people to pity you because the children are in the good hands.
Yes, this is another reason. Yes, Yes, we don't want people to, put us in that position that we are taking children at that position. Yeah, we want to always share the pictures after we handle the situation. Yeah.
I don't know if negative pictures work as a like advertisement approach, because like if people use them, probably it means that they bring someone or something. But I think that using those pictures is kind of also moral wrong, because I have ad block on my computer. But one time we were watching video in a class, and YouTube showed us like advertisement for some NGO, and pictures they were using, it was literally like shock content. And I don't know, maybe someone with a weaker psyche might feel very attacked by it, not even considering like, will they approach the organization or not. I just think it's wrong to show this to people without warning and like in the comfort of their home.
I'm talking about the brand communication now, yeah? In the brand communication, when you put something about your brand, you don't use the shock pictures. I wanted to explain that. But when you fundraise, sometimes you have to show the problem, but not with a single picture that shows the problem only. You have to show the problem, and then you have to show the solution of the problem. This is very important. But while you are communicating about your brand, you shouldn't use the shock pictures or images. Advocacy communication. I mean, in SOS Children's Village, it is obvious we advocate for the child rights. And we do quite minor, let's say, communication for the advocacy, because it is very sensitive. But internally, with the public bodies, with the authorities, let's say, we have plenty of communication for advocating for the legal text, for the practices, for changing the culture. Yeah, we do have a general advocacy within the framework of human rights with name of zero discrimination. And we do have a campaign each year for that. I mean, the way of running the campaign differs every year, but it's more or less going more digital than the offline now. And while we are advocating for the child rights, most of the time it should end with a quite strong message or quite strong, let's say, petition or something. We are in the growth stage of that now. We are not in the desired level still as SOS Children's Village. But we can say that NGOs in general, not SOS Children's Village, must advocate for the rights. And they have to use communication very, very efficiently in their advocacy communication. I mean, during these times, the advocacy communication goes with the online petitions, with the surveys, with 360-degree communication instruments. Here in Northern Cyprus, there are plenty of NGOs who are doing only advocacy for the, let's say, patent rights, advocacy for the cancer, advocacy for the child, not SOS Children's Village, another NGO. And they are doing very effective communication with the public now. nowadays. Fundraising communication, as we described, it's for raising funds from individuals or from companies. Yeah, I mean the acquisition is that. And most of the time, we do that with the campaigns, multi-channel campaigns. I mean, the campaigns itself divided into two, the seasonal ones and the theme ones. Yeah. There are some campaign seasons in the NGO sector that we use. Most of the time they are digital. We use face-to-face approach also in the streets. We use events. We have sales also of the merchandising products, so promotional activities, and corporate fundraising activities again. All these activities are interrelated with the communication efforts. I mean, some of them, and some of them, they are using only maybe face-to-face, but it's communication. And whatever you prepare as a material, you have to reflect your brand very carefully, your aim, your objective, your offer, what you want from the people, what you deserve, what you're going to do with the funds. Yeah? And how will you return to people also? What we use, this is a very old-fashioned communication model, direct mailing. We still use it because we found it personal, very personal. So we write mails, ordinary mails for the people, for the companies also. We use new media, electronic media, newspapers, TVs, radios, everything. Outdoor telemarketing, face-to-face. So we choose which one is the best for the appeal that we choose, and we use that one. We don't have any rule there. Sometimes for, let's say, a theme campaign like a Christmas campaign or something, it's better to go digital. But sometimes when we want something more interesting, or let's say more, which needs more connection, then we use face-to-face. Yeah? Because sometimes this is sales, sales. It's like fundraising. So when you ask for something which needs a durable connection, then you cannot go in digital on that. This is very important. You cannot sell everything digital. Nowadays, I hear from my friends also, my colleagues, that we should go digital. Okay, we should go digital. But you cannot sell everything in digital. Yeah? Somebody can argue on that now. Everybody can sell everything in digital, because I started to hear about that also.
Yeah. Can, but sometimes something tangible is more impactful, especially in the cases of like social responsibility, awareness, and stuff like that.
Of course.
In digital, it's a faster flow of information, and it will lose impact faster.
True. True. I mean, for acquisition, for finding new friends, let's say, new customer, when you are trying to sell something, marketing something with a durable product or service, which needs a connection. It's very difficult to make that connection in the digital and electronic media. Yeah, so we always try to switch to face at that time.
Depending on the topic, you can balance this
Yes.
to make it better impact.
You know, 10 years ago, we were just thinking to integrate digital into the campaigns. Now we know the campaign should be in digital. Yeah. And you have to have other elements also that communicates with the same target group. Some of the examples of the campaigns that we use, and the wording, it's Turkish, I know, but it's Turkish community, so and different visuals, different images, different wording, but it's all aligned to that aim. Yeah. So NGOs, they do fundraising in different fields. This is some of the examples from SOS Children's Village maybe, but if you search, if you research, you can find many more examples from Northern Cyprus. They are doing it. I mean, small, large, and medium-sized NGOs, they are doing fundraising activities, and they do communicate. For the retention, this is for the optimizing the funds via warm contacts. Yeah. What we do, actually, we give a big thank you first for the donor. This is a very important communication that we do, thanking to people. Sometimes we upgrade, convert, or reactivate. Sometimes we send surveys for them, for their satisfaction. These are all different forms of communications that we do. So it doesn't end. In one way, we try to find new volunteers, donors, or supporters. In other way, we try to, keep the donors, keep the volunteers. And it should have an interrelationship between each other. And again, we use these instruments for retention activities. I mean, we call them, we send them mails, we send them SMS, emails, and sometimes we try to have this messenger communication. Yeah? These are some of the materials that we use for retention. Anything else that you would like to ask about fundraising communication?
How often do you send an email?
How often we?
Send an email
To whom?
To collect fundraising.
Okay, we have different segments. Yeah. If we are looking to find new donors, let's say, we use direct mailing 5 times for the theme campaigns and 4 or 5 times for the seasonal campaigns. So nearly every month we do mass mailing for finding new donors. And for the existing ones, every day we send mails. Every day. In the morning, we have a CRM program. Who knows CRM program? What is CRM? Customer Relationship Management. Yes, we have a software that brings us these people with the anniversary, with the birthdays, with everything. So what we do, if I have the birthday of my donor, I have to celebrate it. Yeah. This is a one-to-one communication between the donor and myself. Yeah. Sometimes we call them because it is the day of celebrating their first year of being donor of SOS Children's Village. So what we try to do here is building a relationship, personal relationship between the NGO and the person. Yeah. So we prepare these letters, e-letters, and sometimes offline letters also to them, and we post them. We call them. Sometimes we meet with them because they need this face-to-face interaction. Old people, they need this. They call us and they say, "Come," and we go. We have people for that.
They are coming to you.
Sometimes, but if there are elderly people, they help us, and they need this face-to-face communication. So we take our time, and we share our time, and we do that. Of course, the digital communication makes things easier now. With one press, you can reach to, let's say, hundreds or thousands of people. But there are people who wants that. There are people who doesn't like that. So you have to build this different kind of communication models with the different people. Yeah, this is the difficult part. Because as a single organization, you may have a team of communication, you may have a person of communication. For example, I have a person of communication, only a single person. And I have more than 10,000 committed donors, more than 300, let's say, corporate donors. So, and you have to interact with them. You have to have personal relationship with each. So, and it should be tailor-made, yeah, according to each segment. This is very, very, very difficult to make. People, they have expectations, they need something. That's why they donate, they support, they volunteer. Yes, please.
How often do you need volunteer workers?
Always.
Always.
Always. Okay. Public relations, media visibility. It's not only maybe conversational media, also online media, also, yeah, TV, radio, newspaper, journal. Being there is very important. People, they read. Yeah. Events. Sometimes you can organize an event. Sometimes you can participate to an event. Yeah. But you have to, follow that and use these opportunities to be in the events. Yeah. Celebrations, occasions, fairs, festivals. All attempting to these or organizing these is very important. Video productions, sometimes for the TV, sometimes for YouTube or others. Newsletters, publishing newsletters within the period, monthly maybe, if you can. People, they support NGOs and they wait what will follow. You have to show them what is happening within the organization, who is benefiting from the support, what you're doing with the support. This increases the accountability of the organization. Yeah, if you are not accountable, you cannot survive. Everybody who is the partner or stakeholder of the organization has right to know more. So, who are the stakeholders of an organization? Anybody who knows? Who are the stakeholders? Sorry?
stakeholders are any people or organization who can be part of the movement of an NGO.
Güzel. Nice. A real person or an organization who is in or out but has a relationship with the organization. So, a member of a civil society organization, a beneficiary of a civil society organization, board of directors, workers, donors, volunteers, public authorities, public itself. I mean, as a person out in the street who knows SOS Children's Village or that NGO is a stakeholder. So this stakeholder or partner has a right to know about you. If he or she is supporting you, he or she definitely has a right to have information about you. And when you are taking your decisions, it is not like just informing them in one way. When you are taking your decisions, when you are doing your job, you have to ask them. This makes you accountable. Yeah? And desiring the consent of the public is very difficult. And when you are accountable enough, then you desire the consent of the public. They say, okay, these NGO or these civil society organization is doing the things right. Yes, it's credibility. Yeah. And your own media is very important. Okay. Some of, the public relation activities, they are all events, all the programs, all the platforms that you exist, your newsletters, your news press releases, everything that you prepare. And this is daily work. Yeah? Don't you think that private sector does the same?
I think the private sector has a part, it's supposed to have a part or a department in their sector that give back to the people, to the humanity. So yeah, that's
True.
how it is conceptualized. So whether you are private or not, when you are a private company, even if you are making profits or even if you are selling something, you should have a department on your company that is supposed to be given back to the population.
That's true. That's real corporate social responsibility. It is. And it shouldn't be, separated from profit. Because if you are looking around you and if you are giving back to the community, to the world itself, with an environment, in anything, then you have to know that it will reflect you again with a profit. Some of the there are some parts of the private companies like big corporations that believe this, but in this SME sector it doesn't go like that. So we should not think that private sector is a single thing. Yeah, and corporate social responsibility can be done by each actor. Yeah, and some of the companies, they have, like civil society organizations, also companies has a kind of reflection to the society and the world. Yeah,
I think that is when they have engaged a huge number of people. For example, a firm like Coca-Cola is obliged to give back to the society one way or another.
Of course. And if it is damaging something, this is very critical. Your job, if your job, your work has a negative effect to the world, then you have to pay for it. This is the reality.
I mean, it's the how we would want it to be. But again, you're talking like it's how it is, but it's not.
It's not. Sometimes people think that it is like that. It's because of the communications efforts
Yeah.
of these companies.
They want it to seem like that,
Yes,
but
yes.
I think
Yes.
it is because what they call credibility is something very big to gain, and when you gain that, you cannot communicate what is not true, because there are some critics in the public sector that is only there to identify things that you say and you don't do, and when you don't do, they hold you accountable. And big companies can't joke with communication, so when they are communicating something, they make sure that they are really doing so.
But
It's
this-
just like maybe a university like EMU saying that we are giving 100% scholarship to 100 people every year, and then they don't do that. It's a big problem if critics have to hold them accountable. So
But if you will search in history of any like big corporation, you will find like hundreds of scandals and hundreds of things they did wrong, and we just forgot because we have too much news every day, 24 news cycle.
Okay, in the real life,
Yeah,
I mean, the companies, even the NGOs also, they have successful cases,
yeah.
they have worst cases that they fail. Okay, I mean, the art of communication is always tries to gain followers, let's say, funds. Yeah, and the companies, I mean, the social responsibility for the companies should be regulated by the public sector also. I mean, if we have a large company with a large profit, then public sector, I mean, the government or the local bodies, they should regulate that, and they should find ways to benefit from this profit. Yeah, and with that, they may guarantee that the private sector is supporting the society, supporting the world.
I think we don't feel the support toward the society because they don't give to individuals as a non-governmental organization do. A private sector are even the sponsors of those NGOs. So when an NGO, for example, on the SME sector, for example, want to maybe approach big sponsors, they are approaching big companies, and these big companies are private sectors. So an NGO that goes to, for example, I don't know, Coca-Cola to ask for a sponsor, the fact that Coca-Cola sponsor them is already like giving back to the people, because what the aim of the NGO is to take it back and give to the humanity. So the private sector is doing the same. So we might not feel it, like we might say that, okay, they do this, they write down that they will do, but they don't, but they do. I mean,
Okay,
a big
some of them
NGO
do.
benefit from that.
Some of them do, some of them don't. But the way here, I mean, our discussion point here is how to communicate this. Yeah. So some of us may believe that companies, they support society. Some of them, some of you may think that it's not enough.
If they don't,
Yeah.
we have to hold them accountable. I mean, it is how it is.
How?
Yeah.
That is how it is. Like, it is their responsibility
How
to
are
give
you
back. Like a
doing
sector
that?
of a private, a department on the private sector has to give back to the humanity. So it's
Of
because
course.
maybe our society is too weak to take those decisions, like holding those big companies accountable.
How?
I mean, their strategy for that.
Okay.
No, I'm just.
But
Many people like say that, but how can a person hold accountable a corporation?
Not a
can't
single
do
person.
anything.
It can be a union. It can be. I mean, it's a whole process. But it is
Yeah,
our
I
right
know,
to do
but-
so.
I mean, yeah, it is, but it won't change anything because
mean-
they don't care. They care about profit and.
I mean, there are some of the people who believe that the big, large companies, especially, they are saving the world. Yeah. And some of the people, they think that, I mean, the private sector itself is damaging the world, and they are not doing or giving duties enough, or they are not keeping their promises enough. Yeah. And that's why the world is like that. Yeah. I mean, the differences between the ideas of the people is their own perception. But here, the good examples, I mean, the companies who make people to believe that they are doing the good are the companies who can communicate. Maybe this is not true, but they are, the way of their communication is successful. That's why people believe that they are doing good for the world. Yeah? And there are some disaster cases, like BP's case, a few years ago. You remember? They wanted to clear that image. They spent millions of communication budget, but they couldn't. Yeah. So that was their failure of operation and failure of communication at the same time. So here our topic is making the communication for the brand, for promotional activities, for maybe advocacy in the NGO sector, and public relations. I mean, the organizations who tells their story better than the others are more successful nowadays. I mean, every organization, a private sector organization or a public sector organization or civil society organization, has a story. I mean, the way of telling your story is your, let's say, key for the success. If you can express yourself better than the others, if people can recognize you better than the others, then you are successful. And in the NGO sector, I don't like this wording sector, but in the NGO world, again, it is the same. Every organization has a story. And the communication is the art of telling this story. I mean, the storytelling itself, you are maybe with that. Telling a story is a very difficult thing. There are plenty of training activities for that. They say there are few elements for a strong story. And you have to succeed there. You have to, have a very strong beginning. Have to have logical in the story. You have to have a golden detail in the story that brings people in. You have to have a clear and clever idea in your story and a good solution. Yeah. You have to have a smooth conclusion that everybody can understand. If you don't have this element in your story or in your communication, then people, they don't understand you. Everybody can tell a story to another one, but stories that impressed us. So it is the same for the organizations. And the ones who succeeds to express themselves better than the others, they survive and they gain the consent of the public, which is the most important one,
Those who also take higher risk.
Yes, sometimes. Okay, I would like to end with a story. Because I'm a fundraising person, I choose a fundraising video, so don't blame me on that. Uh, this video it was successful. So, a kind of example. Normal.
Nedi der, så er jeg på klassetur, og så sa han at jeg skulle møte Vet du hvor jeg kunne komme til deg? Vi er fra Moss. Tusen takk.
What do you think? In the an example. Can be. I mean, of communication, the way of expressing your success or your failure. So the way of expressing yourself to the people may differ, and each organization may choose a different way of doing this. Yeah, the important thing here, whenever the channel you have choose, whenever the message you have choose, whenever the text or image you have choose, should reflect your identity. Yeah, should reflect the values of your brand, should reflect your should commercial use. We come to the questions.
Just like to add something you said. When you are going to use positive pictures, you never use your child pictures on your
Yes.
ads or fundraising activities. This is the rule in SOS Children Village, and I would like you to inform in that subject our students. It is forbidden to use real children who are vulnerable.
Yes, for Northern Cyprus, we don't use the real pictures of our beneficiaries. Why? Actually, we are a small country and we have a very narrow population. So if we use the real pictures, our beneficiaries may, face with strange things, in the school, in the neighborhood. They recognize them. We don't want to struggle with the rights issues. We don't want to point our children that have family care. That's pictures of our benefit. We found sometimes pictures. We buy them, purchase them. Sometimes we pictures of real cases in the country with permission, of course. Yeah, we do that in the fundraising. And in the general materials, also it is the same. Use the real pictures of the beneficiaries, even not the adults also. Yes.
And what if the donors want to see the real situation that the children are facing in the center, for example?
You mean how we show the problem?
About accountability that you said. If they want to see if you really help like real people.
Actually, this is very difficult to answer. Actually, what we do, we publish statistics. Sometimes we give real stories with the fake names. For the individuals, it is different. What we do, we join financial information, that how many people received from such who we want to help, we reach them with need analysis, with assessment, what is the society. We don't put a single person or a single family in front of our donors that we help this. Some of the NGOs, they do that. They show the real cases. They show the people and they show with the help also, with the donation, with the materials, everything. This is the way of, this is a different principle of a different civil society organization. Some of the organizations, they do that, and they use this real information in their communication. But as SOS Children's Village, I mean, even we get the permission of the people, we don't use the real pictures. We don't, put people on that position that
Children do you have in your care? From which age till which age you are helping them? In which ways? because you didn't mention how many children are taken care in SOS and what's going on after 16 years old, because they are not stopping with the children's only in SOS Children Village. They are
That was my
continuing
question.
to help them until they survive by themselves.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about
Even
sustainability of,
university education is supported by SOS, and even when they are getting married, they are helping them to stand up on their own feet, and they are having family care system as well.
Okay.
Please inform our students about that subject, because I
Okay.
think this is the missing point. They don't know how many people are in touch with you.
Okay, if we are going to talk about SOS Children's Village, yes, because we were talking about the communication in NGOs.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you.
Mhm.
I would like you to know this because SOS Children Village is the biggest NGO in Northern Cyprus, and they are active in how many countries? It's an
In the
international
global
one.
wise,
It
in
is
the global
international
wise,
one.
it is 136 countries.
Yeah, that's why we called them to come here and meet with you.
Okay, SOS Children's Village Northern Cyprus, actually, we founded in 1991, and we started to operate in 1993. It began with the care of children who lost family care, actually. But our program had changed according to the needs of the society, of course. So we want over. We have children's village in Nicosia. We care children between 0 to 15 years old there, and after that, after 15 years old, we move them to youth center in Kyrenia. It's very close to here, and after youth facility living, we have semi-independent life program, which continues about 3 years. It is a kind of test period that if they will be able to live independent after our care, and then which is, we have the financial support. Yeah. Uh, around 20 are living at in children's village. So we are. It's the number is 107 around there. Okay, this care. We have a preventive activity, preventive project also. We try to support families in the community, and we try to prevent the families to let their children, actually. We work with the social welfare department there as a partner, and we found out the vulnerable families in the community who are not able to look after their children. And what we do, we take them in the family strengthening program. This is a long-term support that we give. It depends according to family, but it continues 5 years. Increase family coverage. education is not, I mean, the family can, they're going to kindergarten, but opportunities there doesn't go. First aim of this kindergarten is to give education to our beneficiaries, and then according to capacities we serve to the neighborhood also.
I'm interested in those who are in the independent stage. Like, what is your mission with them? I mean, do you have any plans with them, like connecting them, for example, to opportunities?
Actually, yes, but not with a, let's say, very, very, very ambitious way. Why? Because a youngster who becomes an independent shouldn't have, let's say, should so we use our connection, give some of the opportunity to find, but to, you know, start their own needs. We listen to them, offer them limited.
I think understood how you reach the potential donors, but how do you find people who need your help? How do you reach them?
Via networking, via social department, because social welfare department has the authority. Yeah, I mean, we have a call center in the country. 183 183 is a call center for social issues related to the family, related to the children, and related to the family. And if people they call, so we are children.
Government, but they don't have enough organization to do. And as children, let's support them in that sense. And may I ask something?
It's
Instagram'da vardır. Onu bir gösterebiliriz. Gösterebilmek için farklı kurumlarla işbirliğine girersin. Yani onu bir
Bunu YouTube'dan bulabiliriz belki hesabında.
I would like to show something to you, which we were in collaboration with SOS Children Village, and your lecturer Arvin Hoca make this project for SOS Children Village. We are not just giving lectures to you.
Bunun hesabına nereden?
In collaboration with NGOs, because it is our responsibility to community to help them, and I would like you to watch this animation which is done in Children's Rights Day, and it is published all around the northern Cyprus in 6.
But can you also reduce the volume, please?
In 6 regions, they hang all of these posters, and it is the animation which is broadcast on. And we went to one kindergarten in order to take these voices, and we worked over there approximately 4 hours. Çağdaş, me, and Arvin, we were together, and Elnas Hoca.
My question does
Yeah.
not end. Like the case that you described is when the children are taken from the parents, or like if the parents already get some help from government and they are directed to
It
NGO.
depends on the
But-
situation.
Yeah, okay, but
It depends on the situation. Sometimes, for example, we are neighbor, and you observe that I'm not looking after my children well. Punishing it well and have some violences on my children, and you can call 183, and the social security department can come and detect what's happening over there, and they can say that you couldn't looking after these children, we are going to take it. Sometimes some family, for example, have alcohol or drug usage patterns, and again, government take these children. Sometimes migrations happen. They couldn't looking after their children, or maybe they are taken from their families and giving to there. It depends on the situation. For example, for once, what's happened? A little baby left on the hospital and gone. It is just born, and they go. And what's happening to this baby? They are taking it.
Hazırız biz.
Yes, thank you. Bir sen açıkla istersen ne olduğunu. Benim
Okay, this
gitmem
was
gerekiyor.
advocacy campaign that we organized together with Aruka. Actually, every November, 20th of November is the Child Rights Day. And we try to run a campaign during November, and we do different activities in the campaign. I mean, there are posters around, social media posts, sponsored posts, TV commercials, radio spots, outdoor materials, events like talks, conferences, seminars, sometimes exhibitions of the arts, things like that. So it's a combination of events we try to do every year. And it was last year that we worked. Yes, we worked with Arika to and we hanged big banners of this work to in social media and in the TVs also. At the same time, we used a radio spot in the radios, and we are shortly trying to, give an awareness to the public about the importance of the rights for the children. I mean, according to the analysis that we made, our community, they still need education about the child rights. And unfortunately, the local culture doesn't help that much, because there are some norms that reflecting to the wrong. So our duty as a civil society organization is to aware people about the child rights, teach them what are the rights of the children, and for initial stage we make this with cards.
I deserve okay, I deserve that. I deserve my rights. I want my rights.
Yes.
Because it's
Bunlar benim hakkım. Hak ediyorum. Hak istiyorum. Bunlar benim hakkım. Hak ediyorum. Hak istiyorum.
Yes. Actually, this short animation is the basic rights, actually, because we are in that stage still. I mean, we are still trying to, you know, work out basic children, and out the within every each do our research situation, and according to findings, there isn't to aware people about the rights of the children. So you may see this 20-30 seconds video and you may think that it's you know it's a simple thing, but it's very important. This is like a seeding, yeah, the community. So it was just an example and a part of advocacy communication that we made, but this was not the only element that we used. As I said, we used the posters, we used the banners, we hanged huge banners around the cities, and we have received very positive reactions according to that. So it's a long way to go, and yeah, it was a kind of successful work that we did. Any other questions?
My question was about the fundraising. What do you think about the option, the fundraising option?
Option.
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 Yes.
What is that?
Option, for example, selling value or not value in a very expensive price. Yes.
Auction. Auction.
Auction.
I like auction. I also don't know how to pronounce it right.
For example, you want to raise $10,000 or
When people say, I will buy it for 20, I will buy it for 30.
Okay, auctions. We used to use it in the classical events like balls, like dinners, like things like that. But now there are options to have auctions online also, or having. I don't know if it is a good thing to talk about NFTs now, but NFTs, you know, are now very popular digital tools, or let's say values, that maybe civil society organizations may use for raising funds. Nowadays, I'm discussing with my team if we can accept cryptocurrencies, or if we should go to introduce NFTs to the market. Yeah, because you know the fundraising environment. I mean, all the sectors are very random. Yeah, they are you know very quick, changing very quick, and communication is like that. Fundraising environment is like that. So you have to adapt. You know, people they start to consume, and donation or help or contribution is a kind of consumption. So we have to adapt to the digital. So for yes, auctions are good options for raising funds, but we have to digitalize that also. Any other question? Yes, please.
Yeah, you taught us about the importance of branding, the color, the logo, and everything. So my question is about the name. You call yourself SOS Children Villages, right? So why that name? Why villages? When you say villages, are you helping children just in villages? Does it limit your impact
Yeah.
just in villages, or you go like over the villages?
When it started with purely with villages. Yeah. So we were talking about the physical villages. Now, I mean, while we are representing or explaining our brand, the villages itself represents the safe environment for the children. Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of discussions about this name. Shall we change it or not? But now, within the brand communication, SOS Children's Village, when it says village, it says a safe environment, and it tries to transform that to the safeguarding of the children in general. Yeah. So when we say SOS Children's Villages, we don't say that it is a village, because nowadays SOS Children's Village is integrating the families, I mean the houses, to the community. So there are some countries who doesn't have villages anymore. So in the brand communication, this take a part, and we try to explain that now to the people, to the organizations, to the partners, that when we say village, we don't meant that village. We meant the safe environment for the children. Yeah. But this is a kind of obstacle. Yeah. Very good question. Any other question? No? Just 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to give me this opportunity. Bitirdik mi?
Do you remember how you discovered the world around you? Can you hear the beat of life? Can you hear it by seeing it and feeling with all your senses? Hey, can you still hear it? There's something in you, driving you, calling you. Calling you in closer and closer. It's happening right now. Time to free your curiosity that's always in you. Now it's time to act. This is an act of discovery. It requires looking into the world in new ways. much to answer for, but we're not offering you the answers. We are here to encourage your questions, but more important than the question is how you answer it. Try the ordinary, then try the unusual. To live is learn, and to learn is to live. Live, learn. It's an endless process. This is your path. This is your journey. You decide how it's going to be. Just enjoy every moment of it. We believe in design, keeping it simple but also significant. We believe in art for looking at the world with a unique perspective. We believe in creativity for communicating better with the world. Creativity takes courage. The future belongs to the curious. Come and experience it with us in Aracad and discover your creative potential.